Hey guys, how's it going today? And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, just as an introduction to the series. This is going to be kind of a head-canon style series. In other words, thoughts and ideas and theories and musings and possible ways for you to maybe cultivate and use to identify with certain aspects within the story of Star Wars. Things like how do the space fighters interact? In other words, is this a heavily armed bomber fighter or is this a very fast, nimble fighter? Then you have story aspects like what we're going to be talking about today, Rey. Now, the character of Rey has been relatively controversial. You have one side, which is pretty much the side that I'm on, which is that Rey's an amazing character and I love her and I want more of her and I want tons and tons of explanation and backstory and more character development, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching Rey in The Force Awakens. There's the other side of things. There's the other school of thought, which is that Rey is too powerful. She progresses too quickly in the Force. And I can understand where that's coming from. I mean, you got Luke doing this. "3 years after the Force awakens within him, and then an hour and a half after she gets awakened, Rey does this." That doesn't quite mesh right, and I totally get that, and I totally understand where that's coming from. So, we're going to talk about Rey's Force capabilities, but I also want to talk to you guys about how she's so good at piloting and how she's so good at hand-to-hand combat as well. So, the Force thing we're going to leave off to the end of the video, but right now we're going to dive into her ability as a pilot. Now, this isn't explained as well as it should be in the film, in my opinion, but it is given to us in a expanded universe book, a new expanded universe book called Rey's Story, which is a young adult novel, which is The Force Awakens. It's basically a novelization of The Force Awakens, but it's only told from Rey's perspective. You're seeing everything through her eyes. It's an amazing book, but at the beginning of that book, you get a prelude in which she is inside. Rey is inside of a she's got this like helmet that doubles as a flight simulator, and she can fly an A-wing as a simulation, or fly a this as a simulation, or fly that, and so she uses this flight simulator almost all the time. Whenever she's not eating, sleeping, defending her territory, or scavenging, she is in this flight simulator. So I think that kind of helps to explain it a little bit for me. In addition to just her simulator, though, she's a scavenger, which means that she's very mechanically inclined, which means that, at least for me, that means that you have more of a connection to the machine that you're using. I mean, she used that speeder that we saw at the beginning of The Force Awakens. She built that by herself. Those are 2 X-Wing engines on the back of it. Like, it's awesome to see that kind of stuff. And because she's so connected with machinery, at least for me, when I'm driving a car, now that I know how brakes work, and now that I know how transmissions work, and now that I know how powertrains work and everything like that, I feel more connected to the machine. I'm just more confident at the wheel, which means that I would think that mechanical know-how would allow Rey to be more confident at the helm of the Falcon. Hence, one of the reasons why she can do the crazy stuff that she did in The Force Awakens. And then in addition to her mechanical capabilities, you have this overriding, it seems like galaxy-spanning knowledge that Force users tend to be really, really good pilots. Almost all of them are good pilots. Wait. Yeah, sorry, Plo Koon. Anyways, even Obi-Wan, who doesn't like flying, is good at it. I mean, we saw that in Attack of the Clones. Then you've got the obvious Anakin and Luke, who are both amazing pilots. So I think that a combination of the simulator, Rey's mechanical aptitude, and her force affinity kind of helps to explain why she's so good at piloting. Now, as for fighting, her hand-to-hand combat, especially with her staff and stuff, I think that Rey's capacity to fight in hand-to-hand, both with the lightsaber and with her staff, is sort of explained once you really, really think about what kind of environment that she's found in. Jakku has absolutely zero law enforcement. It doesn't even have really a criminal presence. It's just scavengers trying to stay alive. All of these people fighting for their resources. They're fighting over nice scavenger finds. They're fighting over food scraps. They're fighting over this, that, and the other thing. And, you drop an 11-year-old person or a 10-year-old person or 9-year-old person, however old Rey was when she was dropped off, into that kind of environment, they're going to have to learn how to fight, otherwise they're going to be dead. Now, when it comes to Rey's capacity to use the Force, that is a lot more complicated to explain. There's a couple of different, hundreds of different theories on what Rey is, who she is, where she comes from, who her parents are, etc., etc., etc. So, because of how many fan theories and how many ideas and how many thoughts people have about Rey and why she's so force sensitive and where she comes from and whatever, I've broken it down to 4 that I think are the most probable. Number 1 is that she was already trained before and had her mind wiped, and then she was dumped on Jakku. This theory has been going around pretty much since The Force Awakens released, and it's essentially Rey was trained, she was trained by either Luke or another sect of Force users, and then she was dumped on Jakku and had her mind erased in order to keep her safe. That's a possibility. I personally don't subscribe to that, but that is definitely an explanation as to why suddenly when she remembers that the Force is a thing, that all of these skills come to her immediately. So I think that that's a very possible explanation if that's the one that you would like to subscribe to. Then you have theory number 2, which is actually a ton of different theories clumped into one. She is another chosen one. She could be a reincarnation of Anakin. She could be a reincarnation of the daughter. She could be a reincarnation of Ahsoka after Ahsoka became a reincarnation of the daughter from the Mortis trilogy. She could just be a manifestation of the light side of the Force. She could be a Bowden, or not a Bowden. Big Wizard of Oz Storm guy. Bendu. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this one either, but I'm not going to be as upset about it as I would be with the previous one, where she was just trained and then mind wiped. I'm not quite sure if I'm too comfortable with that, especially considering my headcanon, which we'll get to here in a second, my personal headcanon. Then you have a third headcanon, which is where this video really came from during a conversation that we had on a Twitch stream on Sunday between myself, Halo Spartan 86, I believe, and Malaki. In which Halo Spartan, who's a bit of a... he's not a huge fan of Rey. He doesn't really like her. He thinks that she got too powerful too quickly, and so on and so forth. Malaki put forth a very good idea in that Rey might have a special Force ability. A Force ability that allows her to learn things by touching people either physically or through the Force. And the new canon isn't shying away from specific Force powers, things that you might like choose in a video game. You have things like, you still have Shatterpoint being noticed, which is an ability that, in Legends at least, was pretty much exclusively revolving around Mace Windu. Then you also have, I don't remember the name of it, but it's the ability that Quinlan Voss had, where he could, touch things and, feel their, their path through the Force, where they've been before, what they've witnessed, etc., etc. So I think that I would be definitely okay with the fact that Rey just simply was born with an innate ability to learn by touching people's minds. And if you look back through the movie, she starts really understanding the Millennium Falcon after she touches Han Solo. She starts knowing how to really use a blaster after she touches Finn. She gains force powers and stuff, starts really gathering force powers after she has her mind battle with Kylo Ren. It's that fulcrum point, right when she wins that little back and forth push battle in between herself and Kylo in the interrogation room. That could definitely explain where she got some of these abilities from. And then you have my thought. My thoughts on Rey's powers is that she has this sort of capacity inborn within her. It's not necessarily that she's a chosen one. She may have a touch of destiny about her, but definitely nothing along the lines of chosen one or being a reincarnation of the daughter or reincarnation of Anakin. She's just a person who was stuffed onto a desert planet with very little life, thus very little life force. There's very little force on that planet, as also explained in Empire's End, which I'm not going to spoil. Definitely go read. But again, she was on this sort of planet that's completely devoid of the Force, mostly. I mean, it's a place of death and pain and suffering. And then she finally starts kind of using those muscles. She remembers that the Force is a thing, which weakens the dam within her mind or within her soul, as it were. And then you have that final confrontation with Kylo Ren, where she, where her and Ren are in that interrogation room, and they're kind of going back and forth and forcing each other back and into each other's mind and everything. And I think during that link, that dam broke. Something snapped, a bubble popped inside of Rey, where she suddenly just sort of, all of that Force energy just kind of, filled her very, very suddenly, and she gained all these abilities because her innate Force ability had been so stifled and been so smothered for so long that it just needed to get out. And so she immediately knows how to mind trick a stormtrooper, and she immediately knows how to force pull a lightsaber to her, and she immediately knows how to fight relatively well against a very heavily injured opponent. But she still manages to survive and even win. But that's my thoughts, as well as a few other people's thoughts on Rey. What do you guys think, though? I'd love to have a conversation with you guys down in the comments down below. Hit like on this video if you liked it, so I know to make more stuff like this. Hit subscribe too, especially with Celebration right around the corner. I'm looking forward to doing trailer reactions, trailer analysis, thoughts on new movies that they probably plan on announcing, because $2 billion at the box office and 1 point whatever billion dollars at the box office, respectively, the last two Star Wars movies. So they're going to make more, and I'm super excited. It's a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan. So, like I said, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want more. Hit me up over on Twitch, where we do live streams every Sunday. And as always, may the Force be with you guys.